MotoGP fever has hit France for round 6 in 2025 as the action comes on the iconic and historic Le Mans track. One of 8 tracks to host the French Grand Prix racing has taken place in this part of Europe for over 100 years, and it's one of MotoGP's legendary venues. Qualifying in sprint action will unfold in front of the grandstands filled with fervent French fans. It's time for MotoGP. So the Bugatti circuit in Le Mans, first built in 1965. Grand Prix motorcycle racing hit this part of the world just 4 years later in 1969. Le Mans has hosted the most French Grand Prix in history. It's pretty tight, pretty compact. If you love hard braking and hard acceleration, well, you will like Le Mans. 14 corners, 5 left, 9 right. First sector starts with that fast 6-gear sweep through turn 1. Turn 7 and turns 8. Easy to wash out the front end there. We saw a few crashes yesterday on Free Practice Friday. As we mentioned, some hard braking zones here in Le Mans, particularly in the turns 8, 9 and 11. And turn 1 gives the Michelin tyres the biggest workout. Good morning and welcome to Sprint Saturday. Good morning and welcome to the Bugatti circuit in Le Mans. Some nice clear blue skies to kick off Sprint Saturday in round 6 of the 2025 MotoGP World Championship. Going into this afternoon's 13-lap sprint, it will be BK Gresini Racing rider Alex Marquez that leads the way, 1 point clear of brother Mark in the World Championship after his maiden first MotoGP victory last time out in Jerez. What a place for Alex to do it in front of over 100,000 home fans in Spain. And there's going to be over 100,000 fans packed into this iconic Bugatti circuit here this weekend, where Fabio Quartararo and Johann Zarco, of course, carry the home hopes. But it was factory Ducati star Marc Marquez, winless here in Le Mans since 2019, who really did dominate day one here. Marc, fastest on the opening day with a 1:29.855. That was immediately a new all-time lap record, just a whisker inside reigning world champion Jorge Martin's 2024 all-time lap record, as Marc Marquez looks for what could be his 5th pole in the opening 6 Grand Prix of the season. Well, I'm delighted to say, as you can see these live pictures of the drone sweeps over the Le Mans paddock, we have glorious sunshine. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in Le Mans. Sadly, we're not too sure how much longer this weather will last, because there are some rather dodgy forecasts for rain to disrupt this part of France tomorrow. But we'll enjoy the sunshine and we'll enjoy MotoGP qualifying and sprint race action later on this afternoon. Matt Burt, Lewis Suddaby in the commentary box as always, Jack Appleyard down in pit lane, and we promised you yet another very special guest. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome a rider who has probably one of the biggest CVs in racing history. He's a 125cc race winner, a Moto2 podium finisher, a MotoGP podium finisher, Suzuka 8-hour race winner, Moto E podium finisher. I could go on and on and on, but I'm delighted to welcome into the commentary box for the first time Bradley Smith. Great to see you, buddy.
Thanks for the intro there. It was yeah, nice to reminisce some of those memories. Le Mans always was a track that went well for me. I actually got my first podium here in 2007, back when I was 16 years old on the Repsol Honda. So yeah, always nice to come here and reminisce a little bit, and looking forward to watching this weekend's racing.
Is it 18 years ago now?
Don't remind me.
You're making me feel really old now, Bradley. As I just mentioned, Marc Marquez then did lead the way. Fabio Quartararo really did give the home fans something to shout about here yesterday. He was second on the factory, and Marc and Quartararo make it back-to-back poles after his heroics in Jerez a couple of weeks ago. Bagnaia, Aldeguer, Alex Marquez, World Championship leader, Miller, Acosta, Vinales and Morbidelli, with Bezzecchi already directly through to Q2. Coming up shortly in what will be a pretty frenetic Q1 session will be Marini, Zarco, Bastianini, Mir, Ralph Fernandez, Agura, Rins, the Gian Antonio, Binder, Nakagami, the HRC wildcard, Miguel Oliveira, good to see him back with Prima Pramac Yamaha after missing 3 Grand Prix, and Lorenzo Savadori, who continues to fill in for our absent world champion Jorge Martin. Well, here's the rider that they're all chasing, a 1:29.855. It felt, Bradley, yesterday that Marc he almost felt like he came here to sort of show who's the boss after that mistake in Jerez, where he was clearly in contention for the victory. Second mistake actually in the last 3 Grand Prix, but you just felt like he was just out yesterday to once again show I'm the guy to beat. Yeah,
he definitely meant business. I felt that he had half a second in his pocket compared to everybody else. Towards the end there, Pecco threw in the lap time, but yeah, in terms of just general pace and consistency, Marc is that person. If you look at the track layout, it does suit him being able to brake and use that rear brake all the way to the apex of the corners. You know, it's one of his strengths, as we know. And yeah, I think the only negative or unfortunate thing was Maverick yesterday, just losing the front there towards the end. He did look like he had some good pace, so expecting him to show a little bit more today. Yeah, bang on. I mean, Marc Marquez was clearly the fastest rider, not just over 1 lap, but his race pace was pretty frightening. A lot of riders saying Marc in a class of his own. He did a 1:30.762 on 18 lap old tyres. And Maverick Vinales, as you just mentioned, Bradley, was very, very close behind him. And Lewis, you have to say he was going to be top 3 had it not been for that crash at a vital stage in that practice session yesterday. Maverick said he was suffering with a bit of oversteer on that factory KTM when he went down at turn 9.
Yeah, and Maverick Vinales said that in some ways that was a legacy of still trying to understand that KTM fully. He's certainly pretty far on that process, doing a stunning job so far with the podium he didn't get to keep in Qatar and the 4th place that he did get to keep in Jerez. Still says that at times he's struggling to understand fully where that limit is on the KTM, and unfortunately he found out to his cost with that crash yesterday in practice. But it didn't cost him a place in qualifying too, and you certainly feel that if someone who is not on a Ducati is going to be on the front row of the grid later on today, it's likely to be either Fabio Quartararo or Maverick Vinales on the KTM. And there was some stark comments, some very frank comments coming out of the mouth of Pecco Bagnaia yesterday. Of course, the former double MotoGP world champion. We know he's had his struggles so far on this updated Ducati GP25. Well, the realisation seems to have hit that what he wants from the GP25, he isn't going to get that sweet feeling, that confidence in braking and entry. I mean, how many times down the years have we heard other Ducati riders who've looked at Pecco's data and said he makes up the time on corner entry and on braking? He said, now I have to find the speed and performance in a different way. What did you make of those comments, Bradley? Yeah, I think it's a realisation that this bike's not going to quite give him what he needs. I think, yeah, normally you turn up at that Jerez test and it gives you an opportunity to work on a few things. You know, you get those first 3-4 races out of the way, you turn up at Jerez, you find yourself in that sweet spot, and that takes you through the next period of races here in Europe. But I think it was a realisation that it's not quite there, and he's going to have to reinvent himself a little bit and see if he can find something to match Marc, who is an extremely difficult person to match. So, but looking at the lap times and the one-off pace yesterday, you know, Pecco was able to close the gap there towards the end, and we know he is consistent over race distance. So, and at the moment, if last 2 races are anything to go against, Marc is his own worst enemy, so just stay in the hunt and stay close. Yeah, Bagnaia was 3rd fastest. He was a million miles actually behind Marc yesterday, just under 2/10 back. The 2 factory Ducati riders were split by the superb Fabio Quartararo, who once again really did shine in front of his home crowd, building on the momentum of that front row start in Qatar, the pole position last time out in Jerez, followed by leading in the sprint and the Grand Prix. Fabio Quartararo said he's very, very good at just taking his brain out for 1 lap, and he's going to have to do the same once again here today. 1:30.032 was the best from Fabio yesterday. Although I did ask him yesterday after his comments post-sprint in Jerez, when he said he went all in, he was prepared to either win it or crash trying. He said, having tasted that and now realised that they're capable of doing something very similar this weekend, he's perhaps going to leave a little bit of margin this weekend. He's not perhaps going to lay it all on the line onto the same extent that he did in Jerez. The recognition that Yamaha are genuinely competitive across multiple venues now. He did put in a slight caveat. He said that at circuits coming up where perhaps tyre wear is greater, that Yamaha might find themselves in slightly more difficulty, but with tyre wear not particularly high this weekend, and Quartararo cheered on by 100,000 of his fellow countrymen and women, which is doubtless going to give him an extra tenth or 2 in his pocket as well. He is a genuine front row contender this morning. We just saw there, didn't we, Maverick Vinales. We know he's got a particular love affair with Le Mans, as we see their Tour de France legend, cycling god Mark Cavendish, the record 35 Tour de France stage victories. We had the absolute pleasure and honour of showing the commentary box briefly yesterday with Mark. We'll come on to Maverick